Good afternoon, members of the Management Committee. The meeting is now called to order. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you would like to comment at today's meeting, please complete the request to speak form. MAG staff can assist you with any questions that you may have. If you parked in the garage, a parking validation stamp is available on the information table in the hallway. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are also available from MAG staff. We will now begin the meeting with a call of members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Management Committee. I will go down the list of members alphabetically and indicate if you are present. Patrick Banger. Chair Barton.
Present.
Thank you. Ben Bitter. Jean Blackman. Chris Brady.
Here.
Thank you. Andrew Ching.
Present.
Thank you. Ron Corbin. Dan Cotterman.
Here.
Thank you. Rick Buss as proxy for Henry Darwin.
Here.
Thank you. Crystal Dykes.
Present.
Thank you. Bruce Gardner.
Present.
Thank you. Rachel Goodwin. Andy Granger.
Present.
Thank you. Lisette Camacho as proxy for Rosa Anchowski.
Present.
Thank you. Suzanne Jones. Jeff Kulaga. Leo. Thank you, Jeff. Leo Liu. Reyes Medrano.
Here.
Thank you. Jessica Mefford Miller.
Present.
Thank you. Jennifer Jack is proxy for Brian Myers.
Here.
Thank you. Grady Miller.
Here.
Thank you. Gary Neese. Kevin Phelps.
Here.
Thank you. Calvin Pilcher. Christopher Reams as proxy for Jim Pekorski.
Present.
Thank you. Bryant Powell. Wynette Reed.
Present.
Thank you. Bill Murphy as proxy for Jim Thompson.
Here.
Thank you. Zach Tretton as proxy for Jennifer Toth.
Present.
Thank you. Catherine Valenzuela. Bruce Walls.
Here.
Thank you. Paige Peterson as proxy for Matthew Williams.
Present.
Thank you. Jody Toss as proxy for Bob Wingenroth.
Present.
Thank you. Joshua Wright. Is there anyone that I missed? Mr. Chair,
Ron Corbin is here. Sorry about my tardiness.
thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Could you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
justice.
Okay, our next item is the call to the audience. This is the opportunity for public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda. Informational items or items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to the audience unless the chair requests an exception to this limit, which I have not. I have received one request to speak for the call to the audience. So let's see. MAG also provides the opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. And staff, we have one call to the audience, if I'm correct.
That is correct. We have one in-person request to speak and no online written comments for today's agenda.
Okay, so I'm going to call Miss Diane Barker.
Thank you, Chairman Barton and MAG managers. Diane Barker, residing downtown Phoenix. I have lived in 7 different cities in the valley, so I'm familiar with most of your transportation, and even today do go across the valley from time to time in different modes just to see if in fact, well, it keeps me going, and so I like that. I'm interested in, your proposition that's coming up, the 479, and having read it and talked to a few people, there's some doubts, of course, using multimodal transportation, I'm interested in the transit part, but even speaking with the citizen earlier today, the Board of Supervisors was canceled, but I got to speak with some of them. They're just wondering, in the plan, I said, well, look at MAG's 2050 plan. They said here on this 479, at page 5, it talks about arterial roads, but he's saying like the transit isn't on that. Also, I see that you have, I really prefer getting around like most of you do. One reason why you don't use the transit system because you think your car is faster. Well, it's not faster than some of the BRT, the bus lines, but you've got planned over 331 miles of freeways, but I see the BRT is only like a third of that on the freeways. And in the fact that cars can use it, it's except peak period. I'm wondering why you haven't expanded that with the $9 billion that you're planning on the next 20 years for the system. So I'm just kind of skeptical. I'd like to say, yay, I'm going to vote for all this because it does have the idea of multimodal. Also, it has some little dinky maps. You have to use a microscope, at least for me, to look at that. You've got lines for the rail, and it's going further into Mason down to Chandler. I don't see the word at all, any wordage about the rail going to Chandler, but I do see that little map. And so, people, when things aren't fully disclosed, people are getting more skeptical. Ed Zerker is trying to find out what 2.5 the composition is. We need to find out when the trucks turn over and the cars are stalled or whatever accident, how much of this pollution is coming from our vehicles, because I contend to you that beloved single occupancy vehicle is a major problem.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. We now proceed to agenda item number 4. Item number 4 is 4A is for information only. Does any member of the committee have any questions or request a presentation on this item? Hearing and seeing none, we'll now move on to agenda item 5. 4 and 4A. No questions. So we now move on to 5A. Items 5A through 5K are on the consent agenda and does not require any member of the committee. Does any member of the committee have any questions or request any presentation on any of these items? Sorry about that. Any questions on 5A through 5K? Hearing none. Prior to approval on the consent agenda, there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any item on the agenda. And I have received one comment from Ms. Barker. So Ms. Barker, would you like to come forward?
Thank you again, Chairman Barton. Okay, so, I'm interested in most of those agenda items, but I'm pointing out the 5C. And it has to do with the Transportation 2050. These are basically, here I've got 5C and D. It's the TIP program. And basically, it's what we're going to be doing, apparently, that's already in the pot for this referendum we're expecting to happen. I understand, fortunately, if in fact that weren't to pass, that there's enough money in our transportation, I hope I'm right, in the valley that we could go on for a year. Okay. And we may need to make some modifications. I'm not for trip reduction. You use that term because that's what is given to the corporations to make planning for air quality things. But that's, to me, like a misnomer, because people really should be freely moving around, ideally in modes that fit the best for their schedule, and also in general caring enough for better air quality. So if I'm being a little like overly ambitious or even naive, let me just say this is that we all are in this together. And we need to, whatever is going to happen here in our future, in our valley, look to see that we're going to be able to move things around economically, flexibly, and in the best way, preserving, people and the air. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. Staff, can you confirm that that was the only speaker on items 5A through 5K?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve consent items 5A through 5K?
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Phelps, second by Mr. Brady. We have a motion and a second from Mr. Phelps and Mr. Brady. We will now have those participating in the meeting online take part in the voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their audio. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their cameras, staff would conduct a roll call vote. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online? Those in favor, say aye.
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 Say nay. Now, members, please leave your cameras on. Staff, can you take a roll call vote of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their cameras?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, when I call your name, please indicate how you vote. Grady Miller.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. We now move on to agenda item 6, which is the Freeway Life Cycle Program Minor Improvements Funding Request for US 60 Grand Avenue at Loop 303, next phase interim improvements. This item is on the agenda for recommendation of approval. Tim Stroh, Major Projects Manager, will present the item. Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of the MAG Management Committee. As the chair stated, we are here today asking for $4.2 million to fund some projects along US 60 Grand Avenue. First, we're going to provide some information on how we got here today. First of all, I want to let the committee know that every single year, the Freeway Lifecycle Program goes through an annual update in May. It goes through the MAG committee process and is approved. This year, the fiscal year 2025 FLCP includes $10 million for minor improvements. This is a great program. We've had this in years past. We've actually increased the amount because of the flexibility of this program that allows us to quickly react to areas of the freeway system where we need to improve safety or add capacity, in addition to what we already have programmed in our regional transportation plan. So before we dive right into the proposed projects, I want to provide a little bit of history. The proposed projects we're here today are located on US 60 Grand Avenue between 163rd Avenue and the Loop 303. For those who do not live in that part of the valley, it's highlighted in red here on the map. We've been working with the City of Surprise and Peoria and Maricopa County Department of Transportation and ADOT a lot in this part of the valley, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. But the US 60 Grand Avenue is very important to the Northwest Valley. It provides key access to the central core of the Phoenix metro area. It's also a freight corridor that provides connections to Wickenburg and up to Kingman and to Las Vegas. The Northwest Valley, that square that we just highlighted on the previous map, back in 2010 had about 5,000 people in it. And as you can see on this graph, by 2030, we expect 107,000, and by 2050, 250,000 people. This creates some challenges, right? This part of the valley is very unique. Actually, it's not too unique, but it's unique for, as I say, we did a whole transportation series on different issues around the valley, and this is one at the top of the list. So as you can see on this list, the folks living along Grand Avenue only have so many opportunities to connect to the Loop 303 in the central core of Phoenix. People in Peoria, the residents over there, have a little bit more opportunity. They have several interchanges spaced out pretty evenly across the area, but there's a wide gap. You see that 4-mile gap between the two. So Grand Avenue splits the community of Surprise, right? It's one of the main corridors for emergency response. So when there's congestion in this area, it creates a problem. Let's take a look at what the congestion looks like. So a lot of the residents, a lot of the growth, I should say, that's occurring along this corridor is happening off 163rd Avenue. And as you can see during the AM peak hour, it takes residents almost 10 minutes to get on Grand Avenue from this location, and another 2.5 minutes to get to US 60. That's over 12 minutes to drive 2/3 of a mile through this corridor. Here's a snapshot view. This is a ADOT picture taken from an ADOT traffic cam that highlights the traffic issues occurring in this area. So you're looking in the westbound direction like you're driving out to Wickenburg. You can see 163rd Avenue interchange at the top of the screen. Both sections are completely backed up. This is another viewpoint that we took with a drone to really get a view of the issues along this corridor. So you can see this is not during the peak hour, but there's a lot of traffic still building at 163rd Avenue. One of the challenges, we have a railroad on the east side of the map, right? The BNSF rail corridor. So you can imagine, say during the peak hour, when these lanes are filling up with traffic, we have a train go through there. It creates additional issues. You have a lot of the traffic coming off of Grand, trying to make that turn on 163rd Avenue. They're backing up into the through lanes, which creates a bottleneck in this area. So the good news is there have been some improvements made lately to this area. In 2022, ADOT received a state appropriation to do a feasibility study at this section of roadway on Grand Avenue and to develop some short-term improvements. So ADOT did the study, identified some great projects, and they've already completed some of those improvements as shown on this map, and they're currently going through some of those right now. So I want to highlight a few of them. Starting on the left side of your screen, you see the lines in yellow. Those are projects that are under construction today. The blue lines are projects that were constructed this last December. So they added an additional, they're adding triple lefts at 163rd Avenue. That's the main movement going through this corridor. Adding additional turn lanes off of Grand Avenue on 163rd and additional through lanes. Graphic on the right is the northbound off-ramp at 303 and Grand Avenue. We're adding an additional triple left as well to improve traffic operations. So during the same time that all these issues are being raised about the Northwest Corridor and ADOT's doing the feasibility study, we work with our member agencies in the Northwest Valley, Surprise, Peoria, ADOT, McDOT. We've even reached out to State Lands, McFlood, and a few other folks to address the traffic issues that are occurring in that area. So MAG, in partnership with our member agencies, kicked off a planning study earlier this year to take a look at Grand Avenue from the Loop 303 all the way out to State Route 74. So we're going to focus on improvements to that corridor, but we're also going to look at the arterial system, right? We want to make sure that the internal circulation is working, and folks also have additional opportunities to connect to the Loop 303. So this project is anticipated to be, I believe, wrapped up later on this fall. As part of this planning process, we actually just held our first public open house in the city of Surprise right off of 163rd Avenue, where we're seeing all this growth and the congestion occurring in the area. We had about over 175 people, let's say closer to 200 people attend. But the real focus of this meeting was to let them know, hey, we've heard what's going on in the area. We understand the issues. ADOT reacted in a very quick manner. We've made some minor improvements. We let them know about the study process, what we're planning and stuff. But the real focus of the study was to sit down and listen to them. Listen to their concerns. They're the ones sitting in traffic for 12 minutes, 13 minutes to go 2/3 of a mile. So we rolled out roll plots. We talked to them, had them draw on maps. And we asked them, say, what would you do out here? You drive this every single day. What improvements would you like to see happen? And so we received a ton of those comments. But I really want to thank Surprise and Peoria and ADOT in Maricopa County, because we combined with MAG staff, we had 25 staff members show up and man this public meeting, and it would not have been successful without their help on this. So thank you to that. At the conclusion of that study, we asked our consultant team, who's also the ADOT MC, to take a look at the public's comments. We said, hey, review these, sort through them, see what's viable, but also look through your prior analysis and see if there's anything else we can do in this area to improve travel time and improve safety on the corridor. So I'm going to walk through 5 improvements really quickly to show you what we're proposing for additional funding. So the first one is the off of US 60 Grand Avenue, we're going to add additional right turn lane onto the southbound Loop 303. Right now we have one right turn lane. It starts to queue up and back in and block traffic. This is a great operation improvement. Continuing on the southbound Loop 303 ramp, since we're adding another lane, we're going to have more traffic going on to the ramp. We're going to extend the 2-lane merge lane a couple hundred feet, extend the gore points. We have to give people enough time to transition onto the Loop 303 and not back up on Grand Avenue. Sorry for that. This next one is a T intersection to the west of 163rd Avenue. This is about a half a mile to the west. Right now, there's no acceleration or deceleration lane there. So you have people going 50 miles an hour coming up to a signalized intersection at 163rd Avenue, and they don't have a safe way to get off. So we're proposing of adding a lane in and out on this to get people safely onto Grand Avenue and get them off as well. The next one is the southbound Loop 303 off ramp. We're going to add a third left turn lane. There's already 3 receiving lanes there today. This will help line up people getting off the ramp and wanting to get in that far right lane for 163rd Avenue, really just shuffle them in there. So this definitely helps improve traffic operations and safety and the merging issues in the area. This is I believe the 5th proposal is that we're going to add a 4th through lane at 163rd Avenue. Now this intersection is a little bit trickier. So if this project is approved and moves forward, we will go to final design and the consultants will be able to come up with more of an emerging plan for this area. But we want to push through more capacity, clear out some of the lanes, and then those lanes will merge back into the existing 2 lanes further down the road on Grand Avenue. So let's talk really quickly about what these proposed improvements look like. On the left side of your screen, the 2023 before improvements, those are the numbers I showed you earlier today where it shows about 12 minutes to travel that short distance. The middle graphic is the 2030 after the ADOT projects are approved. You can see the travel time. What's a little deceiving is you see, if you guys take a look at 163rd Avenue, the start of the 2023 before improvements, 163rd Avenue southbound says 9.8 minutes, right? That's today, existing condition. Then it goes up to 8, then it drops to 8.1. That's the 2030. So we have the numbers for all these, but I didn't want to bore you more than I am already right now. So 2023 numbers after ADOT improvement, that southbound direction goes down to 2 minutes. Huge improvement. The problem is 2030, you see it jump back up to 8.1 minutes. That's the additional growth. This area is booming, right? So as soon as ADOT made these improvements, the delay is starting to creep back up. That's why we approached ADOT, the community. We wanted to find out what else could we do in the short term to make improvements to these to this corridor. One thing I do want to call out is you take a look at the northbound ramp, 2023 before improvements at the bottom of the screen. 4.4 minutes 2023 jumps up to 11 minutes in 2030. After our proposed improvements is 4.5 minutes. 4.5 minutes is still a long time. It's a couple cycles, but we cut that in half, which is great. So these improvements, the ADOT near-term improvements, the proposed projects we're proposing today is not the end-all be-all ultimate fix for this corridor. We have projects identified as part of Prop 479 that will build those ultimate improvements and make traffic significantly better. So we do have funding identified at US 60, 163rd Avenue, potential grade separation over the intersection. We also have US 60 at Loop 303, ultimate system interchange. So we have plans in place, and we're also, you can see that big circle in the middle of the map. We're currently under scoping right now to look at another traffic interchange to provide more access to the community in Surprise and Peoria at this location. So we have a lot of plans in the work to help improve this area. If this project does move forward, we would be able to start final design immediately after approval at Regional Council in late October, and then we'd go to bid and construction probably late this summer or next summer. Mr. Chair, that completes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tim. Great presentation. Do we have any questions or comments from members? Jody?
First of all, I just want to say thank you from all of us at City of Surprise. Thank you so much for your relentless work and your dedication and the public outreach to our residents to help mitigate these traffic issues for us. With the continued growth, it's presented not only inconvenience with regards to traffic times, but it's created public safety delays to get to our residents in emergency situations. So it's really needed, and it'll be helpful until we can get some additional TIs in the Northwest Valley. Thank you.
Any other questions for Tim?
Chair,
Wynette?
I just want to add to your comments. I drive that area over the weekend and it is horrible. So I'm excited to see, sorry. The wait times are real, and so very excited and support this initiative. So thank you.
Anyone else? Rick?
Mr. Chair, again, I'd like to echo what Jody said. Thank you. Appreciate it. And to echo what Wynette said, horrible. I think your projections might be conservative on the population growth out there. We're just seeing just absolutely explosive growth. So to jump on this early, doing some, early intervention and try to help the situation now as well as long term, it's very much appreciated. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. So prior to approval of this agenda item, there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment. And to the best of my knowledge, I have no one signed up to speak and no online comments submitted. Is that correct, staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that is correct.
Thank you. So with that being said, is there a motion to recommend approval to program 4.2 million from the Freeway Life Cycle Program minor improvements allocation to the next phase interim improvements at US 60 Grand Avenue and Loop 303?
Go ahead, Jody.
I move to
I'll be-
approve.
Sorry, just trying to be helpful.
We've got a motion. We have a
Please.
second. Okay, so we got a motion by
Thank you,
Ms.
Jody.
Jody Tass and second by Reyes Medrano. So we will have now those participating in the meeting online take part in the voice vote by turning on their cameras and members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online? Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Okay, now members, leave your cameras on. Staff, can you take a roll call vote of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their cameras?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All members have their camera on and the motion passes.
Thank you. We now move on to item number 7, which is the Diamond Grind Pilot Program Expansion Quarterly Update. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion. Arminta Saeed, Policy and Initiatives Program Manager, will present this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of Management Committee. I'm here today to provide an update on all activities related to Diamond Grind that occurred over the last quarter. Before I get into that, I'll just briefly review what the Diamond Grind Pilot Program is, and then I'll get into the update itself. So the Diamond Grind Pilot Program first came online because the prior pavement surface treatment on our regional freeway network, rubberized asphalt overlay, was in a state of failing condition. The majority of it was past its useful life, and that's because there was no funding source identified that was dedicated to replacing the pavement surface. And so the majority of pavement surfaces that were replaced occurred through a regional freeway program project. And so in response to that issue, MAG and ADOT partnered to look at concrete-based, cost-friendly solutions that provided similar benefits to that overlay. And so back in June of 2020, the MAG Regional Council approved the Diamond Grind Pilot Program so we could do that assessment. And as part of that pilot, the scope included implementing Diamond Grind instead of rubberized asphalt overlay on 3 regional freeway program projects. And as that kicked off, MAG and ADOT agreed that they would assess that surface treatment based on the 3 approved criteria shown on the screen here: life cycle costs, ride quality, and then public acceptance of that alternative surface treatment. And then on the map here, the 3 pilot projects, the original 3 pilot projects, are also identified. In order of implementation, first we had Loop 101 Price from Baseline Road to 202. We also had the second pilot project on Loop 101 Pima from I-17 to Pima Road. And then finally, we have the third pilot project on Loop 101 Agua Fria from 75th Avenue to I-17. And so as the Diamond Grind Pilot Program was well underway, there were several different evaluation efforts that were completed between MAG and ADOT. They're summarized here on the table in front of you, but the bottom line was essentially that Diamond Grind outperformed rubberized asphalt in nearly all the categories that were considered, including life cycle cost. And so in October of last year, MAG presented all of those findings to date to Transportation Policy Committee, and ultimately that led to the approval to expand the pilot program by MAG Regional Council in November 2023. Now, that expansion included 4 main elements. They're shown here again on the screen in front of you, but the first element was that Diamond Grind would be expanded to be used on all upcoming feasible regional freeway program projects. We would also continue studying the impacts of diamond grind. We'd also initiate new efforts to assess long-term performance of diamond grind, especially as it aged, and then ensuring that it performed consistently everywhere where it was implemented. And then finally, why I'm here today, we'd come back in front of our policy committees and provide regular quarterly updates on all those different activities that occurred in that time frame. And so now I'll get into the quarterly update itself, which talks about efforts that were underway over the period of July to September 2024. They're summarized here on the screen in front of you, but essentially it boils down to a couple of different efforts looking at actual projects that are underway or completed that are implementing diamond grind on the freeway network. Also, 2 different active study efforts are underway, and I'll provide a quick progress update on both. And then I'll get into some of our long-term performance assessment efforts. So the map here in front of you shows all the different segments of the network where diamond grind has either been implemented already or is currently underway. And so that includes the 3 different pilot projects, it includes regional freeway program projects, and it also includes ADOT projects that are ADOT maintenance and operation projects that are funded through ADOT or by the state. Another effort that is also underway in partnership with ADOT is to look at or to update the pavement conditions as of 2024. So back in 2020, we had completed this effort already, and we wanted to update it to reflect the latest conditions because in the Regional Strategic Transportation Infrastructure Investment Plan, or the RSTIP for short, that's partially funded by Prop 479, there is an allocation set aside for the capital replacement of pavement surfaces. And so in order to inform the sequencing of that allocation, we wanted to make sure that we knew where the greatest needs were, and then we could identify that list accordingly. Moving on to study efforts. One of our active studies currently underway is the Urban Heat Island study, which is being led by Arizona State University and being conducted in partnership again with ADOT. The intent of that study is to quantify what the heat impacts of the 2 different pavement surfaces, rubberized asphalt overlay and diamond grind, are on the regional urban heat island effect. The latest update there is that the study team has just completed its 3-month data collection phase and now is working to complete the analysis of that data. They expect to have preliminary findings available as of January 2025. The second active study effort underway is the second phase of the freeway noise analysis study. The first phase was completed back in 2021, and it focused on the completed diamond grind pilot projects at that time. There is still a 3rd pilot project that was just recently kicked off on Loop 101, Agua Fria, 70th Ave to I-17. And that project offers a unique opportunity for us and the project team to have collected data before the implementation of diamond grind and after the implementation of diamond grind, and then we could do this direct comparison and see what the impacts were on traffic noise. And then it also allowed an opportunity for us to collect data under different atmospheric conditions, which we know plays into the impact on traffic noise. And so the latest update there is that the project team had just completed 2 out of the 4 measurement phases planned. And in doing so, we're able to capture that pre-diamond grind data under both summer and winter timeframes. Another effort that is about to be initiated and all the work to prepare for it has been completed is the ride quality monitoring program. Because the diamond grind surface is relatively new to the region, the pilot, was initiated in 2020. We wanted to track its performance specifically in terms of ride quality as that surface began to age and continued to age. And so what ADOT will be doing is on an annual basis, they'll go out and collect ride quality data and compare it to the year before so we can see trends in how Diamond Grind is performing or how the ride quality that comes out of Diamond Grind as it ages. And then finally, I'll get into the effort with Loop 101 price. This is related to assessing the performance of Diamond Grind. We had wanted to ensure that it was performing consistently everywhere where it was implemented. So a little bit of background, Loop 101 price from Baseline Road to 202, as I had mentioned, was the first pilot completed, and it was the only one to date that caused a significant amount of public concern, specifically related to traffic noise. And when we investigated further with ADOT, the only noticeable anomaly that we were able to point to was evidence of transverse tines, which are these horizontal grooves that are known to cause tire whining, which emits this high-pitched noise that is typically perceived to be very annoying. And so as part of that, as part of the expansion and ensuring consistency, we partnered with ADOT so that we could actually go back and do additional grinding or regrind that corridor, and the intent being to remove any evidence of transverse tines. And so back in February of this year, MAG Regional Council approved the funding to complete that work. That allowed ADOT to initiate construction in April, which was then completed within a 5-month time frame by August 2024. The video that's showing on the screen in front of you here shows the segment of that freeway where it's going from that older rubberized asphalt to that newer, lighter Diamond Grind. Since that project has been completed, ADOT has not received any public concerns regarding traffic noise. And then here's a close-up of before and after that regrind was completed. That first picture on the left is when the initial Diamond Grind was completed. And then you can see on the right, August 2024, that's just a couple months ago after this second additional grinding effort was done. And then in addition to just visibly looking nicer, ADOT did also collect some pre and post grinding noise data so that they could assess how traffic noise was impacted by that regrind effort. And so what they actually found was, on average, traffic noise reduced by about 3 decibels. That's considered to be noticeable by the human ear. And then in addition, one of those locations was identified as the best representative location. It was very much shielded from other arterial traffic noise or traffic noise along frontage roads. And that location in particular did see a decrease of about 5.4 decibels. And then when it came to that, the sharp peaks or the high pitched noise, what this graph in front of you is showing, it's comparing traffic noise peaks from pre-regrind to post-regrind, and it's also identifying the ranges that are considered to be low pitch and then the range that's considered to be high pitch. And that post-regrind data, the line in orange here, is showing a decrease in those peaks in both of those ranges. And then lastly, when we had completed the very first phase of the noise analysis study, we looked at all the Diamond Grind surfaces completed to date. And one of the Diamond Grind surfaces performed the best when it came to traffic noise benefits. And in one case, actually outperformed new rubberized asphalt overlay, which was unexpected to all of us. And what you can see here in the blue line is that original traffic noise analysis of that one segment, and the price corridor after it had been reground is actually performing even better than that in that low pitch range. And so that concludes the update for this prior quarter. So in terms of next steps, as I had mentioned, there's ride quality monitoring program, ongoing data collection efforts underway. There's also some data analysis underway, both in terms of the Urban Heat Island study and the second phase of the noise study, and both of those are expected to be provided as part of the next quarterly update planned for January 2025. That completes my presentation today, but I am happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Arminta. Any questions from members? Chris?
Thank you for the presentation. I love the diamond grind, but let me ask this question because I think we have to be careful with comparisons. And I think you mentioned at the end of the day, at the end of the presentation, but how can we realistically compare a fairly new diamond grind surface as far as its performance, whether it's the rideability, whether it's the noise, against the asphalt if we don't have a new asphalt application? You know what I mean? Because I remember when we first started this whole conversation, it was, well, when you start out with asphalt and you start out with diamond grind, there is a little bit of difference, but then over, 5-7 years, you start seeing that difference. And there's definitely a difference in rideability. Asphalt begins to break apart, and that became a significant issue. So in this analysis, how are you going to capture that theory of what the performance of new asphalt is to compare to what your pilot program is?
Mr. Chair, members of Management Committee, great question, and you're completely right. When it came to a evaluation of traffic noise, rubberized asphalt overlay, brand new rubberized asphalt overlay did perform the best. The difference was, or where the benefit of diamond grind came in, is it provided similar supplemental traffic noise benefits, and that remained consistent over time, whereas with rubberized asphalt overlay, it began to degrade over that 5 to 7 year-ish time frame, as you had noted. When specifically, I'm not sure if you were specifically talking about the analysis that I had
How
up
is
here.
it you're taking this current program, this pilot program, doing a comparison if we don't have new asphalt overlay somewhere else? Are you just having to take an industry experience and then comparing that to what's happening actually on the freeways with diamond grind? Is that what we're having to do?
Mr. Chair, members of Management Committee, as part of that original diamond grind pilot program, we did look at the latest available brand new rubberized asphalt overlay available on the system section on South Mountain.
Okay.
And
so
that's
where that's your benchmark for that. Okay. That was just trying to figure out how we were going to get there. I mean, I think the diamond grind was going to, over time, over a period of time, because of the, just the rideability, the maintenance, all that, I think it gets there. It's just that somebody told us that soundproofing with asphalt was a great idea. And Phoenix was on the front page of every magazine about it. I remember that. So, but okay, thank you.
And I think that the trade-off that everyone wrestled with was, yes, if you could consistently apply rubberized asphalt, you'd have a better experience. Unfortunately, the way we fund transportation in Arizona, ADOT never has enough money to maintain and so we have to throw the money in. And so the trade-off was $1 billion, a different price. And the test was, how much of a difference in noise was it? And that's what this is going through. You're remembering it correctly.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you again. Item number 8 is our air quality update. It's on the agenda for information and discussion. Matt Poppin, Environmental Director, will provide the update. Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Management Committee. Today, I want to really focus my update on particulate matter because there's some pending due dates associated with this that I want to highlight for you. So just to set our stage again, as you remember, EPA set a brand new standard for fine particulates. These are the very smallest particulates that get easily lodged in your lungs and can cause health impacts. The existing standard was 12 micrograms per meter, and they strengthened it quite a bit to a new level of 9. In the MAG region, the main sources of PM 2.5 are combustion activities, so vehicle exhaust, industrial engines, industrial boilers, wood burning, fires, and any activity that disturbs our desert soil as well. As you know, as it gets continually hotter here, our soil dries out more, and so you get more PM 2.5 from that source as well. And then as most folks are familiar with, PM 2.5 emissions are particularly high in the wintertime with residential wood burning and fireworks, and particularly around the holidays as well. So what's new? So the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality has now proposed their new draft non-attainment area boundaries for Maricopa and Pinal County. They came out with those boundaries on September 23rd. Comments on those boundaries are due back to ADEQ by October 24th of this month. Currently in Maricopa County, we've got 3 monitors that are exceeding the standard. The Durango Complex monitor, South Phoenix and West Phoenix, all around about that level of 10. And then there's 1 monitor in Pinal County that's exceeding the new or violating the new standard, Hidden Valley at 10.4. So this is the new proposed boundary for Maricopa County non-attainment area. As you can see, the monitors in red are the monitors that are currently violating that standard. Those 3 monitors I mentioned earlier. The monitors in blue are ones that are attaining the standard or below that 9 average over a 3-year period. ADEQ had informally come out with some boundaries that were smaller than this. The largest change to this boundary has been an expansion into the southeast portion of Maricopa County.
Pat, can you just, what are the southern blue lines, and then what's the east line, the south line, and the west line?
In terms of like major
streets.
Right. So on the south side, you can see the boundary is right below the 202. Similarly, on the east side, it's just east of the loop 202. In terms of the western, and then we have Baseline and the Gila River Indian Community has been excluded. And then on the western portion of the non-attainment area, or the proposed non-attainment area, is largely loop 303. And then the northern, I believe, is roughly Deer Valley Road, but I'm not precise on that.
So what was it? I mean, how much smaller was it before?
So,
and why would we grow something where we're not I mean, what's the point of that if you're showing monitors that it seemed to be under the exceedance? So why would we not oppose this idea?
Right. So we took a look at ADEQ's analysis, and the main reason, to answer your first question, Mr. Brady. So the prior boundary on the southeast side was roughly around Baseline Road. So it has increased from Baseline Road down to loop 303. So that's, to 202, excuse me. And looking at ADEQ's reason for doing this, we identified one primary reason that it looks like they have done this. And so they did some additional analysis that wasn't in their informal boundary analysis work, and that is this process known as using back trajectories. A back trajectory. And a back trajectory is where you start out at one of those violating monitors, let's say South Phoenix, and you look at the wind patterns for 24 hours prior to that day. So they looked at every day where the value at that monitor was above 9, and they went back 24 hours to see where the wind was coming from. And when they did that analysis, they saw there was a lot more wind activity from the Southeast Valley than they initially anticipated.
That somehow that wind is bypassing those other monitors and working its way underneath and getting to those others?
Yes, Mr. Chair and Mr. Brady, I understand your question, and it is a conundrum a bit. So what EPA requires is not only you have to include in your boundary any source that could be possibly contributing to the violation. And so I think EPA's thinking in this analysis is that while there may not be enough material at those blue monitors to cause an exceedance, once that material arrives in the area where you do have violations, that in conjunction with the sources that are there gets you over the level. But I will say that is one primary comment that can be made on this boundary. Is this a local issue, or is this more of a regional issue?
So I think an analogy might be similar to what you have to do with stormwater control. So if you're at the top of the stormwater plane, you're not flooded, but the water coming off your property is eventually collecting down into one point. And so we don't make the person down at one point do all the flood mitigation. We charge it back upstream as well. I think
understand.
that's the logic.
Yeah, but
they're sort of
again, if
looking
you're
toward.
suggesting downstream is southeast and upstream, or sorry, upstream is here and going the other way, then those monitors northeast would be also red, right? So I don't know. I'm just trying to make a point that I'm not sure that that works, right? I mean, because the airflow is going to be pretty wide.
Right.
And you've got monitors to the southeast and monitors to the northwest that are fine. It's just somehow in that other area. Okay, but the point is that there's like a prevailing wind. Is that the idea coming up from the southeast?
Yeah, and and when they did their analysis, wind directions come from all parts of the valley.
Okay.
Most of the time on our highest days are our low wind days, right?
Sure.
And it can collect there. So actually the back trajectories don't go back that far, but there are days when they do go back farther throughout the entire non-attainment area. I think the idea too is how do you regulate those sources overall? If it is residential wood burning, do you just focus on the residential wood burning around those monitors, or do you focus on residential wood burning throughout the larger urban area?
Yeah.
It's one of the other issues ADEQ is trying to
Chandler and
balance.
Gilbert doing a lot of outdoor burning, but it's interesting, the philosophy here.
I think to your point though, Mr. Brady, that is the basis of a comment to this boundary.
I mean, you
What
talk
you
about
identified as
low
probably
density residential, that's what you're hitting. I mean, that's where it's coming from. So,
Right. Yeah, and I think it is a very reasonable technical argument to make is it really the sources around those monitors that are tipping you over and causing you to be in non-attainment? And so therefore, should control measures really be focused on ultimately
be easier to solve, right? If it's right around the monitors as opposed to being 20, 30 miles away, or some between that point and 30 or 40 miles away, right?
Right. And so we do know with PM 2.5, it does, because it is smaller, it can transport more easily than PM 10, which is our traditional dust. PM 10 was always very much a local issue, usually within 4 miles of a monitor. EPA generally considers PM 2.5 very transportable. And so they're looking at not just the monitors that are exceeding, but anything that could be contributing to that exceedance. So I think what they're, again, this is my projection on EPA's thinking here, but what they're hoping is if you reduce the PM 2.5 throughout this non-attainment area, it not only benefits the monitors that are currently meeting the standard, but it would benefit these other monitors. And that's really the basis of a technical analysis, would be if you reduce emissions in the East Valley, will it have any impact on these monitors that are currently red? So those are some of the comments that could be submitted to ADEQ. Yeah. Here's the boundary for Pinal County. And this is ADEQ is proposing a contingency-based boundary. And what that means is they're waiting on a decision from EPA on whether or not this particular monitor, Hidden Valley monitor, is comparable to the annual standard. And what I mean by that is this monitor, Hidden Valley, is a replacement monitor for a monitor that used to be called Cowtown. Was located just roughly 3 miles north of the current Hidden Valley monitor. Back in 2012, EPA did an analysis of that Cowtown monitor and said, hey, really, that monitor is only reflective of a very small localized source around that monitor and should not be used to be compared against an annual standard. So they exempted that monitor from comparison. That same argument has been made by the Pinal County Air Quality Control District to EPA for the Hidden Valley monitor. So they're asking for that this monitor be excluded from consideration for the new standard. So what ADEQ is proposing, they're saying we would propose that there would not be a non-attainment area boundary here if EPA agrees that this monitor should not be compared to the standard. However, if EPA does not agree, this is the monitor that they would, or this is the boundary that they are proposing. MAG is going to submit comments aligning with Pinal County, saying that we do not think this monitor should be compared to the annual standard because of EPA's logic that they did in the prior with Cowtown, and that there should not be a non-attainment area for Pinal County. So for the other monitors, we're happy to, yeah. So we're happy to certainly work with all of your staff on comments that you might have. Yeah. And then I have one more update on ozone, but I'll stop here in case there are additional questions on PM 2.5.
And Matt, these comments are due to a DEQ by what date?
October 24th.
So now's the time for your economic development or technical staff to.
Environmental folks, Scott Boucher and that folks, I'll talk to you.
All right. Oh, I do have a timeline here. Excuse me. So ADEQ will has to submit these final recommendations to the governor by January 7th, and then the governor and the Native Nations for the tribal areas have to submit their recommendations to EPA by February 7th. EPA has a year to evaluate those recommendations, and then EPA will ultimately come out with a boundary of their choosing. If EPA chooses or draws a boundary that's different than the recommendations of the governor, that does issue another public participation process, a 100-day letter process, where folks can comment and say, we either agree with EPA's new boundaries, or these are the reasons why we disagree with EPA. EPA will be looking at air quality data a little bit later, 2022 through 2024, because they have a little bit more time to look at the data. The current data we're looking at is 2021 through 2023. All right, one brief update on ozone. So if you remember, we have one of the main things we're doing is continued engagement with EPA on new science and regulatory flexibility. A little bit of history: back in March is when we had the visit from Assistant Administrator Joe Goffman, and we were able to lay out our concerns about the need for new science, the need for regulatory flexibility, particularly with wildfires and international transport. We sent a follow-up letter to Mr. Goffman in April 1st, and we finally got a response back September 27th from Mr. Goffman. So some of the things that letter highlighted was EPA is going to be doing some additional research on that disconnect between the decrease in the stuff we're putting into the air, the ozone precursors that we're putting in the air, and why our ozone concentrations are not coming down. So we're going to get a presentation from them October 31st on Halloween. I don't know what that portends, but that's the date chosen. So we'll get some new information from them on their ideas on what's going on. And then there is possibly a little bit more additional flexibility in regards to submitting an international transport demonstration, although they did not change the guidance as we requested. But wanted to bring you that update as well with ozone. And with that, that's my presentation. Happy to answer any more questions that folks have.
Thank you, Matt. Any other questions for Matt? Seeing none, we move on to item number 9, the Executive Director's Report. This item is for information only. Ed will present the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very quickly, just want to recognize the former chair of the Management Committee and member of this group, John Cross, who was honored as a distinguished planning pioneer by the Arizona chapter of the American Planning Association last month, which is honoring an individual making significant contributions to the planning profession for more than 25 years. As many of you know and worked with John, he spent time working in Gilbert, Wickenburg, Phoenix, and ultimately Queen Creek, and he is now leading the Pinal County Regional Transportation Authority project there. So congratulations to John. Well-earned recognition for him. Next slide. Our chair, Chandler Mayor Kevin Harkey, attended a reception with the British Consul General here in Arizona recently. Based in LA, but the senior representative of the United Kingdom government here in Southern California and in the region. He's connecting on economic collaboration, advanced manufacturing, semiconductors, battery technology, and renewable energy. Included in that picture is Representative Justin Wilmoth. If any of you are interested in connecting more with the Consul General, Sapna Gupta and our team can get you connected with how to contact the British Consul General. Next, please. Coming your way as managers, as leaders of each of you at the communities, is our effort to assess our regional human services work at MAG. MAG has been the Regional Human Services Planning Agency since 1976, and we are trying to refresh that effort. Amy St. Peter is leading that. Chair Hartke has asked that we be sure that we get responses to survey from each individual member agency if possible. We have many responses from individuals within some agencies, also from external partners, nonprofits, but the chair, I think very wisely, wants to be sure that every city, county, town, tribe has an opportunity to be represented in this. So to that end, you will receive, by the end of this week or early next week, you and your InterGov designee will receive a survey that should take 10, 15 minutes, trying to get some feedback about looking ahead at the future of human services planning, how MAG can be effective, what we are doing or not doing, all those sorts of questions. If you could be sure that there's a representative response from your agency to us, we and Chair Hartke would very much be appreciative of that. So look for that coming soon to yours and your InterGov's email. Finally, we are in the home stretch for this long marathon for the Regional Transportation Plan, now known as Proposition 479. We want to thank all of you for your educational efforts on that. We've been highlighting them along the last 6 months. Here we have Fountain Hills, include as well as Gilbert, Glendale, and Guadalupe, all participating in that with many of your others. And the next slide, please. So this kind of culminates basically all of our member agencies in Maricopa County, 479 have done some educational effort. Thank you also to Valley Metro for all your work. And we will see at our next meeting, we will know one way or the other where we stand with that, what the voters decide. So thank you for that, Mr. Chair. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Zerker. Next item, number 10, is the legislative update. This item is on the agenda for information. Samantha Klakalak, Government Relations Project Manager, will present the update. Samantha?
I think we have no update.
Have no update.
The legislature is busy worrying about getting themselves reelected, as they should. That's their job right now, is
That makes sense.
to pursue that. So no report, Mr. Chair.
All right. So item number 11 is the request for future agenda items. Are there any requests from the membership for an item on a future agenda? Hearing none. The next agenda item is for comments from the committee. Are there any comments from or announcements from the membership?
Mr. Chair, if I could,
Madrano?
for those of you that have known me for a while, you realize that I now qualify to be a member of our senior center. having reached that milestone, I realized that I need a lot of help more than ever in my life. So I'm happy today to announce that I've asked and they've accepted to accept the rank of Deputy City Manager, both Bilal Sanawi and Wendy Jackson. It's a proud day for Tolleson. They're the first two women teammates of mine in the history of Tolleson to hold that rank. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of this day.
Great news. Any other announcements? All right. So the next meeting of the Management Committee will be on Wednesday, November 13th at 12 p.m. With no further business today, this meeting is adjourned. Yeah, likewise. Oh, yeah. Of course.